Hey guys, it's Nicola here. I just wanted to do a quick video on a detox that Craig and I have just recently completed. So it was 90 days without sugar, gluten, dairy, caffeine or alcohol. The reason why we chose those five is they're the five deadly sins, the ones that cause the most inflammation in the body, acidity. They aren't meant to be consumed by us, and they overload our liver and they make us feel foggy-headed and depleted in energy. And we just wanted to experience life without those five things in it. And I just was doing a little video blog, and I thought I would share this with you all so that potentially if you're thinking about reducing those five from your diet, you might like to hear about some strategies that we used to reduce five of the most addictive things on the planet, particularly caffeine and alcohol and sugar. So sugar, if you've seen that sugar film, you would know that if you got rid of all the products in the supermarket that had refined sugar added, that only 20% of products would remain, which is incredible. So on this 90 days, we couldn't eat a lot of pretty much everything in the supermarket apart from what was around the perimeter. So all the whole foods, all the vegetables, fruits, meats, and we ducked in and out of the aisles. We got things like almond milk and coconut milk and things to replace sugar, things like rice malt syrup. We could have honey because we just couldn't have refined sugar. And things like herbal teas. We got a lot of herbal teas to replace caffeine. And we really didn't have much else in terms of packaged foods, because when you start to have a look at the ingredients of packaged foods, it's incredible. You'll be amazed when you start to have a look at the ingredients list. Even things like lemon pepper seasoning, a lot of the savory seasonings have sugar added quite early on in the list of ingredients too. Things like bacon and ham, pretty much all the yummy stuff, it's all got sugar in there. So it was quite an education. I already knew that it was in everything, but to completely get rid of it for 90 days, it was quite an experience, and one that we'll continue doing, because we've now found ways to replace sugar with things like stevia, which is a natural plant-based sweetener, rice malt syrup. I use a lot of that in my cooking, and I'll put in this post my website, and I created lots of different recipes which didn't need sugar and that I could use rice malt syrup. So I still was able to satisfy that sweet craving, because that was still there. Rice malt syrup is it's basically fermented brown rice. It's a lot it's a lot healthier way of getting sweetness in that, as opposed to refined sugar. So refined sugar. Then we got rid of gluten. So that was quite easy for me. That was no bread, obviously. Rolled oats I found quite difficult to get rid of, because that was what I was having for breakfast. So I started to make granola using quinoa flakes instead of rolled oats as the base, and then you're having lots of nuts and seeds and shredded coconut. But gluten is in a lot of sauces as well, like soy sauce. But there are things like tamari sauce, which tastes like soy sauce, but it doesn't have any gluten in there. And there are lots of gluten-free breads now quite readily available. So I didn't find gluten too hard to give up. Just with gluten-free bread, it was hard to find gluten-free bread that didn't have sugar in it. That we found one brand that was sometimes in Woolies, sometimes not. So we just ended up not eating any bread and not eating any wraps, or actually there are some wraps that are made from quinoa. There's one brand in Woolworths. And if anyone wants to know any of the brands that we came across, I'll put my website in this post, and you can just send me a message, and I'm happily share the information with everyone. Gluten I found quite easy to get rid of. my partner Craig, I think he's doing a video. He might have other, because he really likes. He used to have bread. Actually, I made my own bread, so I've also got the recipe for that on my website, and that actually had a lot of vegetables in there and a lot more fiber than you typically get in your processed bread. So yeah, happy to share that recipe with everyone. The third thing we gave up was dairy. So that was actually, I found, quite easy to give up because there's so many amazing replacements out there now. So there's soy milk, there's coconut milk and almond milk, and I think I actually like the taste of them. It was hard again to find them. We just had to make sure they were brands that didn't have added sugar, because a lot of them do. But just so sugar, gluten, dairy. Then the fourth thing we reduced, actually, in cheese. We used to, obviously wine and cheese go hand in hand. So if you give up alcohol, cheese I didn't really miss that too much, surprisingly. So the fourth thing we gave up was caffeine, and I eased on into this and gave it up before we started this 90 days. I didn't sort of like Craig, he went cold turkey coming from triple shots, and whereas I just kind of scaled down my coffee because I knew I've done it before, and if you give up coffee cold turkey, you can get a headache for a couple of days, and so I gradually reduced my caffeine. But how we got around any kind of energy slumps where you would typically have, where we would have a coffee, is herbal teas. And I've drank so much green tea, and green tea has amazing antioxidant benefits. Yes, it's got some caffeine in there, but it's a different, it reacts differently in your body to a cappuccino would, for example. It doesn't give you that high and then that low that you can get from coffee. Herbal teas is how I got around the caffeine. And caffeine is also, it's habitual. It's kind of part of your morning routine. We would go to a particular coffee shop down at Brighton. We'd take Benji for a walk, and we'd have a coffee, and we loved the people in the coffee shop, and it was part of our daily ritual. And so how we got around that was we just parked in a different spot at the beach and took Benji on a different part of the beach, and we didn't go anywhere near the shops. So we couldn't smell it. It wasn't a temptation. We just changing where we were parking, got it out of our kind of radar. So I think caffeine, what I noticed from coming off caffeine is that you do have consistent energy throughout the day rather than a massive high and then a crash that can happen from caffeine. It's kind of like, some taxi drivers, how they're like off and then on with the accelerator, and then that's kind of what caffeine's like. It's like crazy and then slump, and it's like this roller coaster of energy. Whereas when you're off caffeine, you realize that your body naturally has an abundance of energy when you're fueling it with the right things, such as whole foods, lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of, we still ate meat over the 90 days. We just obviously made sure it was lean cuts of meat, nothing that was marinated, because all the marinades have sugar in it. And we felt great. Like we felt really, really good. It was great to wake up each morning with energy and to not feel like I need a coffee to get through the day. It was just a real consistent, constant energy from the beginning. And then what I noticed is I would just be really tired in the evenings and sleep so well because I wasn't wired from coffee. So I'd have like really, really deep, restful sleeps. And obviously that's when we do a lot of our restorative work in our body. And so it just has such a positive flow and effect throughout the day. So yeah, caffeine, since coming off it, we finished on Tuesday, and so we've had 2 days, and I have had a coffee, and I forgot, it is amazing. it's really, really good. But at the same time, I am experiencing that kind of jitteriness that you get after the high. So yeah, it's funny, short-term memory. So I think what I'll do with caffeine is I'll just go to stick to one a day, and or maybe even just have them sporadically, like have them on weekends instead of, and Craig's staying off caffeine completely. So it is part of your morning ritual. So if we're not, if we're going to do this together, then we'll probably continue on not having caffeine together. So the fifth one that we gave up was alcohol, and that was again quite a part of our routine. Was especially on weekends, if we were working throughout the day, it was our way of finishing, and just it was like our full stop at the end of the day. It was our way to tools down, and we've cracked open the bottle of wine, and it's now time to relax. And not having that for 12 weekends, we got to realize how much we were relying on it to just stop and to relax and to chill out and to switch our minds off. So I guess the way we got around that was just going for a walk around the block. We got a soda stream, so we made our own mineral water. We got, this stuff is amazing. Schweppes mineral, it was probably backwards for you, but Schweppes mineral water, lime infused or peach infused. This got us through the 12 weeks. So good. There's no sugar in there too, and it's not an artificial sweetener. So this I highly recommend if you're looking to reduce alcohol. Make sure you've got this in your fridge. And this was like our wine for the 12 weeks. And you know what? We did have a wine last night. We decided to just see how, yesterday was day one of being off the 90 days, and I ate exactly how we're eating throughout the 90 days. The only thing I changed was I had rolled oats for breakfast because there's gluten in oats. So I was off oats for the 90 days, and I love oats, and I'm going to continue on with oats. I didn't notice any disadvantages or any consequence of having oats. Some people get bloated and experience a negative side effect, but I didn't. And I think that the key with what we experienced is everyone's different, and everyone will have different reactions to foods. So it was just a great experiment to see how great I felt without dairy, without sugar, without alcohol, without caffeine, and without dairy, and that we can actually survive without those 5. And most people ask us, why are you doing this, and what can you eat? What is there left over? And there's so much. It's everything that we should be eating on a daily basis. It's whole foods. It's lots of home cooking. We didn't eat out. We tried to eat out initially, and it was just too hard. It's too hard to get sugar, dairy, and gluten free. If it's gluten free, we'll quite often have sugar in it. Or if it's gluten-free, it will quite often have dairy, and it will have some form of cheese, or mayo. So we just didn't eat out, and we saved so much money. We had some amazing foods meals at home, and so that was a big lesson. Was you actually quite often, like, how many times have you gone to a restaurant or gone out for brekkie and just said, I reckon I could have made that, or I could have done a better job than that. And so we've discovered that too, and got so many recipes now on my website that have just come out of sheer, we have to do this. We've got to get through this 90 days, and we've got to still enjoy ourselves. So just got very experimental with making curries from scratch, making everything from scratch really, because then you know exactly what's going into it. So it's funny. So we opened our first bottle of red last night, and this is how much we drank. Normally we easily get down a bottle on a school night, and we couldn't even get through a glass each. which is insane. Like, I opened the bottle and it's just not like metho. It's so bizarre. So our taste buds have really changed. It just feels like the first time I ever tasted red wine, which is probably when I was in my teens, maybe middle teens, who knows. And I hated it, and that's what the experience was. So I don't know if that'll last, probably not, but it's just a really interesting experiment. You can survive 90 days without alcohol, and now I'm actually almost scared to drink alcohol again, because I don't want to lose that amazing feeling that we have, and especially on weekends, waking up on a Sunday and having a full day and enjoying the whole day of sunshine and not being hungover. But I think everyone's different, and I'm a big believer in balance and having, 80% of the time or 80% of the week being good, eating whole foods and drinking lots of water, and but then also indulging and having the odd, like yesterday, my big thing to have after not having sugar for 90 days was I had a wagon wheel, which was amazing. Like marshmallow and chocolate and biscuits, and it's so good. But my jaw actually was aching from the sugar, and I wanted to drink some milk, bizarrely, because my mouth was just so sweet. It was like, whoa, I couldn't handle it. I was enjoying it, but it was, I don't know about this. So I guess our taste buds have really changed, and what it defines as sweet is now sweet potato or really yummy roasted pumpkin. That's kind of what we crave now. So yeah, I guess I wanted to do just a bit of a video blog for myself, just to remind myself of why we did it, and the little workarounds that we had, so that we can continue on with everything that we've learned, and hopefully to give you guys some ideas or tips on if you're wanting to reduce. I guess the one that I would love everyone to try and reduce is sugar, and to really have a look in the pantry and see what percentage of your pantry is sugar, has sugar in it, listed in its ingredients. It's really shocking to see how much it is in everything, and it's a silent poison. It's the new tobacco, I think, and it provides no nutritional benefit whatsoever. It feeds all of our nasty gut bacteria in our gut. If you're diagnosed with cancer, it's the first thing that they tell you to. That and alcohol and caffeine are particularly sugar is the one thing that you're told to completely get rid of in your diet. So highly recommend just even having a look at your shopping trolley when you're at the supermarket, and having a look at everything that's in there and what percentage of your products that you've put in your trolley contain added sugar. There was no cereal that we could buy. I looked at every cereal. There was not one cereal that we could get that didn't have sugar or gluten in it. The gluten-free stuff had sugar in it, and vice versa. So that's why I made granola. I made it from scratch. So yes, it's extra time, but you don't mind, because you feel great. So you feel great. I must admit, the one thing we didn't have a huge social life, and I noticed how much our rituals and our catching up with our friends was just based around having a drink and letting our hair down. And I don't think we'll stop that. Like, I really cherish those times with our friends, and but we stayed out of the social scene a little bit. I survived a birthday and lots of we had a few birthdays actually, and a few that were in wineries. So we're surrounded by our mates that were holding red wine, and but we did it. Like you can do it if you decide you want to do it. Then you can definitely do it. And I think it was cool for Craig to experience as well, to do it together, to know that we can actually get rid of those five most addictive things, particularly caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. I don't think gluten and dairy are necessarily addictive. They're just known, they're well known to cause inflammation in the body. And that's kind of, research is growing on those two things, dairy and gluten, to be not helpful for the body at all. And you can get calcium, like, well, there's the whole, where am I going to get calcium from? Calcium you can get in your veggies. And yeah, it's definitely something that you can also easily substitute as well. So, as I said, there's so many milks out there now that don't contain dairy, and there's so many gluten-free options. It's incredible. That was the really easy thing to give up, actually, I think, thanks to a lot of celiacs out there. But yeah, so friends, thank you for coping with us and for probably being off the radar for the last 90 days. And to anyone else out there that wants to get some inspo or some recipe ideas, I posted them all up on my website, which I'll put in this post. Yeah, so hopefully, and they're always, I'm not a master chef, so they're all easy to put together. So yeah, hopefully you got something out of this, and you probably think we're crazy. Our mates, I think, thought we were slightly nuts, but it's just a message that your body has everything that it needs in order to have an abundance of energy and to be in flow and to get through life and to have the most optimal feeling on a day-to-day basis, which we did. And we were so productive. Like, we got so much done, probably because we didn't have much for social life, but also because we were just in flow, and there were no ups and downs in energy. It was just like a consistent energy, and then towards the end of the day, it was like early to bed. So yeah, it's just a message that we have everything we need within us to live an optimal life, providing that we fuel ourselves with whole foods, and we do as much cooking as we can at home. So yay to home cooking and living the best life possible. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Bye.